The Donut Bag is brought to you by Penn Highway Marketplace, the marketplace for vintage goods, quality collectibles, and handmade crafts. It's where I get all my sports memorabilia. Go to facebook.com/Penn Highway. That's facebook.com/PENNHWY and mention I sent you. So we got one preseason game down, and oh boy, I know we've been saying that the team has looked good. And I know it wasn't against Tampa's starters, but dang, they looked good again in that game.
They really did. And it is tough because it's you in Pittsburgh. I think we tend to want to just be, yep, they're going 17-1 or 16-1 or whatever. We're going to the Super Bowl, and then you lower the temptations. But I'm not saying they're going to the Super Bowl, but they've looked really good, Joe. They've looked so good. They got a problem right now, wide receiver. They've got all these guys are really playing well. I mean, even Cody White has looked really good at camp. He dropped the ball against Tampa, but other than that, he's looked good. I mean, they got a logjam of receiver. Deontay's been looking fantastic. George Pickens. So I mean, let's get that off the table. That first drive, Pickett to Pickens, fantastic. It looked good, and they look good at camp. There's been most of the defensive backs have had trouble covering Pickens, and not just Joey Porter Jr. Everybody's been having trouble covering him. He's got to be your breakout star. He's got to be close to it. So yeah, I mean, in Miles Boykin, Allen Robinson, and then you got Calvin Austin, who I've been saying for weeks and months on your podcast. This is the guy I want to see. Last year, you don't realize how much I think that Matt Canada wanted him. He's going to be perfect on those end arounds. He's really, really good. And boom, he's bringing it. He looked great on that catch. And talk about that, Joe. They were throwing the ball downfield. They were going deep.
Actually, and then through the middle of the field. What's happening? Is this the parallel universe or something?
Right. And Terry Bradshaw and Swan and Stallworth come back. I mean,
yeah. They got a problem. They got a problem at wide receiver. There's only so many spots. They got a lot of battles. They got a lot of decisions to make with this roster. Wide receiver, obviously, Deontay Johnson, George Pickens, Allen Robinson, Calvin Austin. Those are locks. I'm hearing Gunnar Olszewski is a lock too because probably because of he's a good returner.
And
so then
teams,
so then you got basically three players for one spot: Cody White, Miles Boykin, and Hakeem Butler. And I think it comes down to special teams, and Miles Boykin is good at special teams, so he's probably going to get that shot. So that means Cody White bye, Hakeem Butler bye. That sucks.
Yeah, and Hakeem Butler's had some up and down camps. Some days he looks good, some days he doesn't look good. He dropped a couple today, just not great. And it's been up and down for him. And really, I don't think you can afford to have much of an up and down camp right now with as good as some of these wide receivers had. I think a lot of people were ready to say Cody White might have a chance, but then he drops that ball in the preseason game. Not that that's the death sentence, but he's going to help.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's even Mason Rudolph looked great. And he's a guy who had not had a good camp until this point. He comes out and I thought he looked better than Trubisky.
Yeah.
He looked good. So I was happy to see Mason Rudolph out there doing well. And the defense was fantastic. It really was a pretty good showing from our defense. I think basically at this point, Nick Herbig has endeared himself to Steeler fans. I mean, when you sit there and say, I was born to be a Pittsburgh Steeler, well, buddy, your jersey sales just went through the roof.
Exactly. That's yeah. What else can you say to enjoy yourself the Steeler fans? I really like when my sandwich has fries and coleslaw or
right. 13 snaps in that Tampa game. I think they are going to try to work him in more against Buffalo this Saturday, but he looked fantastic in the 13 snaps he was in. It led to the best quote of the game. He comes off the field and Mike Tomlin yells, "Does anybody else have a younger brother?" Which was fantastic. Um, so yeah, all of a sudden this defense is really starting to look. Quan Alexander, I think you and I did a podcast either the day they brought him in or like the day after, and we talked about how this could be interesting. Well, it's gotten really interesting. He was very effective against the Buccaneers. He played 23 snaps. He looked good doing it. And he's yeah, solid. So there's two guys there that are contributing, and all of a sudden, and you addressed this a lot this offseason, the linebacker core, big concern, starting to look a lot better. A lot better.
Juan Alexander looked like a wrecking crew out there. Man, I might be in love. And that thing that he got a penalty for, that was so annoying. Like that's just a good solid hit.
Oh,
Come
I
on.
know. I know. And then he stuffed Keyshawn Washington and on that 3rd and 1, forced a punt. I mean, that's the kind of stuff you want to see. So he's delivering. Herbig's delivering. Hey Big, he's delivering. It's looking good.
Yeah. Yeah. They have a big question at offensive line also, and that's Kendrick Green. And this whole thing of, well, maybe he could be a fullback or whatever. It's like, okay, bro, you actually have to do well on the offensive line. And once again, he was terrible. Like
He
he
was
just
bad.
don't have it. He just don't got it.
No, and it's just unfortunate. And, he's had an interesting career too. He started as a defensive tackle. Illinois moved him into a guard. He ended up playing center guard. So he played around a little bit. And again, tenacity's there. The will's there. He's a guy. His arms are not long enough to play center. You figure you have that nose
Nope.
tackle or that defensive tackle lining 3 inches across from you, and basically boom. And he just does not. He got pushed around 2 years ago. He spent more time in Ben's lap than he did. He didn't play very much last year at the position. I think I don't think he's going to make the roster, Joe. If the fullback thing was working out, I think we would have saw it more. But the funny thing they've had happen lately, it happened today, happened Sunday. Darnell Washington, first of all, he is pancaking guys. I don't know if you noticed that on a couple of those plays, but he on those jet sweeps, he not only he pancaked the one kid, and then he concealed 3 different blocks on the other ones. He is blocking well. And then what's happened, he's been catching the ball, and when he starts going, nobody wants to tackle him. He's just a massive human. And it happened today. I can't remember the young guy's name. He's probably not going to make the team. Number 38, he's defensive back. He wanted nothing to do with him. He catches him in, he caught about a 10-yard flag. He turns upfield, and it was almost like, oh my God. He's going to be a fine addition to the team. So, yeah, there's going to be some interesting things going in the mix. And just like we talked about in week 1, Steelers bring in, Alexander. Now they bring in Xavier Valladay, who got waived by the Texans. So I thought, okay, running back, obviously Najee's coming in. You've got the number 2 spot pretty much solidified. Anthony McFarland probably makes the team, but now you bring in this kid who had a tremendous year in the Pac-10. He had 16 touchdowns, 2 years over 1,000 yards rushing. For whatever reason, didn't get drafted. The Texans picked him up as an undrafted free agent. Must have not saw anything. Cut him. Steelers picked him right up. So who knows? You might see Valladay play Saturday.
I don't know if McFarland actually makes the team.
I don't know either.
Because I don't think McFarland plays special teams.
No.
And I think that's what you need to do if you want to be, a bubble guy. You need to at least play special teams. But from what I understand, I think the size of the practice squad is 16 or something like that. So
yeah,
there's certain rules for how what kind of players they could have or something like that. But hey, maybe maybe a lot of these guys were talking about being cut. Maybe we could stash them on the practice squad or something. But
Yeah.
I've seen Ray Fittipaldo, the Post Gazette, put out a projection of the 53-man roster, and he only had two running backs, basically because of Hayward. You know,
Yeah, Connor Hayward could come in there and play.
yeah, Connor Hayward could be a backup running back, and it can be a backup tight end. So, that's and maybe they'll actually keep four tight ends.
You
I mean,
talked about Yinzers losing their shit. If Connor Hayward gets the ball and he starts running guys over and scores a touchdown, they'll go nuts.
oh my
That's
goodness.
our It's like, nephew, that's ours. It's like,
Another younger brother. There we
yeah,
go.
yeah. They will go nuts. It'll be fun. But yeah, I think McFarland's a fine third down back, but you're right, Joe. They might just not need him. He's a guy that probably get picked up pretty quickly by another roster, and I think Cody White's probably another guy too. But maybe that's the deal. They keep the running back core short, and maybe they keep a couple wide receivers in there. I don't know. You got to wonder if Miles Boykin's going to make this squad. He probably does, but it's really going to be interesting during cut down day. Really going to be interesting. Probably going to be a few guys in there. It's going to surprise some people. But to your original point, Kendrick Green's not going to be one of them. If Kendrick Green gets cut, not going to be surprised.
I would not be surprised. You got to do something on offensive line.
Yeah.
That,
and unfortunately, probably goes down as one of the worst draft picks in the Tomlin era. That was just not a great pick for where he was picked at.
Ben Roethlisberger got a lot of crap for saying on his podcast this week. It's like, hey, my last year, you drafted a guy that's your fullback now. And, people obviously always want to trash Ben Roethlisberger, but he's absolutely right. It's like, hey, this is my last year in the league, and you're putting me with a rookie, a third-round rookie that may or may not be good. Like, dude, why couldn't you pick up somebody, even like like JC Hassenauer or something would have been better than Green, who just he's a turnstile. He's worse than a turnstile. I think he helps the defensive lineman hit the quarterback.
Yeah, no, and just with my history with some of the stuff in the Big Ten, there was people were texting me, "Hey, Big Ten, what do you think about this guy?" And it's like, he was okay at Illinois. He was noticeable. He was a good player in the field, but I don't see him being a good NFL center. Well, he wasn't a good NFL center. So I thought if there were a chance for Kendrick Green, it was last offseason, hit the weight room, maybe work on your technique somehow. Maybe there's a chance. And I think that was it. He didn't do hardly anything last year, so I just don't see him making the team.
I don't think he dressed once all year.
I don't think he did. I could be wrong, but I don't think he did. Yeah. So he's going to be gone. Let's stick on that offensive line a little bit. What do you think of Broderick Thomas?
Broderick Jones.
Broderick Jones, yeah. Thomas on the range.
I thought he was fine, but I'm hearing maybe Dan Moore might actually still hold on to that starting job, even if Broderick Jones is doing well.
I think he will too. I think that's more of a reflection of those first three opponents. I mean, again, going against Bosa, Hargrave, you got Myles Garrett in there. It's a tall order those first three games. But Tomlin's obviously given him a look. I mean, if you want to even use the term, it's his pet project, I guess. Maybe he played more snaps than anybody on either side of the ball. So they obviously were giving him a hell of a look. And I would assume he's probably going to get a good look again against Buffalo, who's got a pretty stout defensive line of their own. So I think we get a feel.
Get that experience.
Yeah.
I like it.
And I guess maybe we sound like hypocrites. Kendrick Green was drafted fairly high. He wasn't a first round pick. But for what you invested in this guy, if it takes a little time, I'm okay with it. I think it's unrealistic to say, oh, he's got to be in there. He's going to be an all-pro tackle or all-pro guard or wherever they're going to put him. He'll be all-pro. Well, hold on. I know he's a monster. He's a mountain. He's got all the physical attributes. But again, we all know that the biggest difference from the NCAA to the NFL is speed. And, so what do you want to let him do? What if he does let Myles Garrett blow by? What if he does let, bad week against Bosa? That's not good for the psyche either. So I think I get where the Steelers are going with this. So we'll see how it pans out.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's fascinating. I remember you kept saying last year how it sucked that they wasted a seventh round pick on that stupid quarterback that they never even bothered. They never even bothered doing anything in camp. Literally did not throw one pass. That was the stupidest thing ever. Well, this year they spent a seventh round draft pick on that Spencer Anderson, who is basically a Swiss Army knife on the offensive line, and he's looked awesome, and he's probably going to make the team.
He probably is. Well, it's like I think, and the kid that they could have had the kid that the Bears drafted, and he ended up being a starter for them last year, and was probably one of the lone shining things about the Chicago Bears offense last year. And the Steelers could have had him. So yeah, I mean, it's like we talk a little bit about fantasy football here. It's like you get down to that 14th or 15th round, you're like, all right, who do I want? Who's the Eagles' backup tight end?
Yeah, yeah.
And or you're thinking, well, maybe make a smart pick and pick the guy that backs up my run. Whatever. That was a throwaway pick, plain and simple. And hey, if you and I have a throwaway pick in fantasy, Joe, at Permani Brothers, we're gonna live to see the next day. You're a professional football team. You shouldn't have throwaway picks. Sorry.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that was a
yeah,
big misstep.
yeah.
I thought Keanu Benton looked really good. That's really encouraging. He looked really disruptive. But Joey Porter Jr.'s hurts, and I really hope that it's nothing serious with that hamstring.
Yeah, funny thing on that, I was going to mention that tonight. So I don't think it is because he was back in pads and practice the next day, and he did again today. So I think he's okay. I think it was just a calf thing. They were being precautious. Speaking of calves, what's going on with our buddy over there in Bengal land? Because he went down, he got shot with that calf injury. Joe Burrow is like, oh, it's a calf injury. It might, yeah, it could be a little bit worse. Because I'll tell you what, if Trevor Siemian has to play more than 3 games for the Bengals this year, they're not making the playoffs. Not in
No,
this conference.
no. What was that? What was that report? It was, I think, Jamar Chase said something like, you know what? Just sit out the first 5 games. It's okay.
Yeah.
Like, bro, if he sits out the first 5 games, the Bengals are toast.
Yeah, you guys are picking early next year in the draft. Yeah. I'm sorry. I know you guys got this great receiving core. Trevor Siemian's not the guy to give it to you.
That was
Um,
like the first day in practice. I was like, oh my God, Joe Burrow's hurt. I think he got carted off or something like that.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God, oh my God. They're like, no, it's okay. It's just a calf. It's like, I think it's a lot more serious than that.
Yeah. So to your point, I mean, is it a concern? It might be. I would be more concerned if he was still walking in sweats. But he's suited up here the last couple of days. And to the Steeler fans that are on there, I love this. They're bashing Tom a little bit about being in pads. Know the rule, okay? When the regular season starts, the CBA says you can only practice in pads so many times. One of the reasons Tomlin does this is to get him in pads. I have no problem with it. They probably practice in pads more than any other team. We haven't seen anything big injury-wise. So, yeah, I mean, it's fine. I think Joey Porter Jr. is fine. Yeah, it's good to go.
He has said that he really wants to play in at least a little bit of a preseason game because he said, I don't want my first NFL experience to be in a regular season game, which it's a good point.
Said, I don't want my first NFL experience to be my first NFL experience.
Right, yeah.
And it's interesting, too. We didn't talk about this, and I marked it down here. So I did think of this, and last Wednesday, we're sitting there waiting for the team to come out. And practice was supposed to start at 1:55. I always put those funny times out. And we're sitting. That's when we talked a little bit earlier. I ran into a certain Pittsburgh media guy. We were standing there, and Steve Smith comes out head to toe in Steeler gear. And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, and you can hear the rumbles. Is that Steve Smith? That looks like Steve Smith. What is Steve Smith doing? Only Mike Tomlin, and we're critical of him on this show too. And only Mike Tomlin can convince Steve Smith, hey, Steve, I need help on the receiving corps. Bam, here he is. And bam, the receiving corps looked really good. Maybe the best part of training camp has been this receiving corps and the new way things are going with Kenny Pickett. So I don't know if Steve Smith's here to stay. He doesn't show in the coaching roster, but he's there in Steeler merch. He's on the field like a coach. He's there with Deontay. He's there with George Pickens. I've seen him with Allen Robinson. I mean, welcome to the
That's
Steelers, Steve
crazy.
Smith.
Steve, he was like a legend with the Panthers, but then he went to the Ravens.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
Getting the enemy to help us. Jeez.
right. And and you take a look at what Mason Rudolph did in those two passes. He was 7 of 12 for 132 yards. Pretty good day by Mason Rudolph. I
Yeah.
know. I know it's preseason, folks. I know it's preseason. But the passes he had, the 67-yarder to Austin, the 24-yarder strike to Connor Hayward, all those passes they set up, and then I think Pickens' 67-yarder too. Those are the longest plays in Steeler play since 2021.
I'm telling you, I think I know his future. I think he's getting traded. I think at some point somebody's going to be down a quarterback, and we got the best third string quarterback in the league. Yeah, let's go.
Right. I just mean I mean that was part of it, but I just mean that the receivers they're getting downfield, they're getting open. The only one that I thought in defense, I guess, of Mitch Trubisky on that interception, I think he could have got up a little bit and high pointed that ball. He jumped a little late on the route. I'd say that interception is probably 50-50 on Mitch. But most of the receivers have looked very solid. Steve Smith was really working with them, especially like kind of getting out of their stance and getting open quickly, which is something he did very well.
Yeah.
They were running these little drills, and they've been running them for the last couple of weeks, practices that he's at least been to that I've seen. And they've been doing well. They've been just getting open for Kenny. And it's going to be really interesting. And I'm not sure, I guess, if Allen Robinson's going to be the slot. Probably looks like he is. It's a hell of a slot receiver to have. And him and Kenny Pickett have made some nice connections during training camp. Rudolph has and Trubisky has with him.
I mean, that's a great question. We've heard very good things about Robinson, but we've also heard good things about Calvin Austin. So are we running 4 wide receiver sets? Are we running 4 tight end sets? Are we gonna have 15 people on the off? I don't know how this thing is gonna go.
I'm honestly trying to think. I can't remember. I guess AB at his height. I can't remember we've had a guy with as much speed as Calvin Austin has. And look, we all hated the jet sweeps. We hated the jet sweeps because you ran them 16 times a game or on 3rd and 11.
And they never worked. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, if you run one on 3rd and 4 and it goes for 40 yards, I guarantee you we're going to love it.
Right.
It's
right.
just possible with his speed. He technically probably ran a 4.2 at the combine. They clocked it at a 4.3. There was a dispute with the clock the day he ran a combine. But that combine test, he looked like, top tier. So, obviously that injury he suffered last year hasn't held him back. He's stronger than ever, and he's looked fantastic.
If he could stay healthy, my goodness, what a weapon. Ooh.
Yeah. And so, Steve Smith comes in. Matt Canada's opening the offense a little bit. I hate to say it, to give credit where it's got to go, but Baltimore's been opening their offense in their camp too. I think the Ravens might be a little bit better than what you and I thought if they continue to go this way. I thought we'll see. But I think the Steelers are going to – I don't think they have a choice. They got to open it up this year. And from what I'm seeing, the things they're doing, whether it's bringing in Steve Smith or going back to the drawing board, it's starting to work. I mean, this could be a really good team. Even some of those Steelers naysayers, the big ones out there in ESPN land are starting to say, you know what? This team's looking good.
Yeah. Before, during the off season, all we heard was if you were in Pittsburgh, you liked Kenny Pickett. If you're outside of Pittsburgh, you hated Kenny Pickett because all you looked at was last year's numbers. And
right.
Now people are, and it was just one drive, but dang, he looked good. And this upcoming game, they're probably going to play the starters a little bit more. So we'll see how that goes.
Should be fun. You have DeMar Hamlin coming back, and he's going to bring a pretty large crowd. What a great story that has been with him. Tremendous young man. I hate to even reminisce about what happened last year because it really just was that scary. But he'll have a very large contingent, and we know how Buffalo fans travel, whether it's the Sabres or the Bills, they're always down here. So I think Saturday will, for some of these younger guys like Joey Porter Jr. who wants to get in there and get some playing time, it's going to be about as close to a real NFL game as they've seen.
You know what? That's, before it was 4 preseason games and like nobody cared, but now there's only 3 and there's only 1 home game. I bet that
Right.
thing is going to be sold out. So I think it's going to be all, not like a Steeler game, but not like a regular season game, but it's
Yeah.
kind of close. I mean, usually it's just like a joke and people don't even show up, but I think it's going to be good attendance.
Yeah, and here's a little shout out to Pump and Charlie Batch. I know you like to give out the shout outs to the Steeler fans from Ireland and South Africa and Wales and wherever it is, but I want you to recognize Chuck from Blawnox. I mean,
Yeah.
it's always somebody, but I just I just
No,
find
that's
that
funny.
funny.
It's like, yeah, okay. It's easier to come from Ireland than it is to come from Route 28.
Yeah, at this point it is. Yeah, like
Okay.
yeah, he made it
Way
out here
easier.
from
Way
from
easier to
Verona.
go on a flight and go through customs than go through whatever the hell construction they got going on that damn road for
Yeah.
all of my life. All of
If
my life around
Colleen from
that road.
Verona is watching, we gotta recognize her. Yeah. No, but it's fun when Pomp and Batch are doing it. It was kind of fun to watch that last Friday. So yeah, I mean, one thing that I saw today, I had a chance. I couldn't stay most of the day. One thing that I found that was today, Percy Harvin has been killing it. He hit 6 bombs, maybe five or 6 punts today. And I'm telling you, they were absolute bombs. They were exactly what you wanted. Consecutive punts, and they were end down, nose down, which is what you want to see. The punting battle's been a little bit fun, but I think Percy Harvin may finally be where they really saw him at. So I think it's his battle to lose, but he's been looking really good.
I heard he single-handedly won the punting competition today. Yeah, I heard there were just amazing punts.
There were some oohs and ahs. There really were. He was putting it up there. I didn't see Steve Smith today again, but then again, I wasn't there as long as I had in a couple days. So I don't know. I'm kind of still curious to see where that's going to go.
Yeah, that's weird. I wonder if the Ravens are like, dude, what are you doing over there? What's wrong with you?
Yeah,
That would be like Hines Ward going to help the Ravens wide receivers or something like that. Like
that would be
that would hurt.
that would hurt. So yeah, Joe. Saturday night, Heinz Field. Oh, sorry, Acrisure Stadium. See, I know that. I even tweeted that last week. I said Acrisure can Acrisure as much as they want to Acrisure, but everyone's gonna still call it Heinz Field unless you're in Aliquippa, who is now the new Heinz Field.
Yeah.
Which I happened to be at last week, and we lit that field, and it looks great. The Quips they have a whole new stadium. It looks fantastic. But yeah, this Saturday at Acrisure, it's going to be a fun environment.
Were there any like ketchup bottles or anything?
Yeah, they have the Heinz thing, and there's like a
all right,
yeah,
all right,
not the size that they had at the original one, but yeah, I mean,
what an amazing story. Aliquippa is such an amazing story. Good for them. I mean, they're such a tiny school and they kick butt every single year in football, and they'll amazing.
Play anybody anywhere. Dr. Woods, he's the superintendent there. I've been working with him. He's just a great guy, big football fan. He has a super staff lined up there to take care of that field, and it's going to be fun. Their first scrimmage is this Saturday too against the Hickory Hornets of Hermitage, PA. So the red and black versus the red and black. That'll be a fun one there. But high school football getting into gear here, and that's just why this is all so much fun. Steelers are getting there preseason. Next week we get to talk about going to Carolina, which that whole stadium will be a sellout of Pittsburgh fans. That's always black and gold. And then you get to this, and we get down to the cutdowns. Who's making the team? Who didn't make the team? In high school football, throw it all in there, and it's just so much fun, man. It's
college is starting pretty soon.
College is starting pretty soon. Yep. Yeah. Somebody asked me who the first game. There's always something soon. I know Penn State and WVU kick off, but that's not until September 2nd. Who's Pitt's home opener, or their first opponent?
I think it's Wofford or something like that.
Okay. Yeah.
All I know is it's it doesn't matter who Pitt plays. It's when and it's during Ribfest.
Yes.
That's the important thing. You got to go down. You got to go down to Heinz Field and get or Acrisure or whatever and go walk by all of those rib things with their 800 trophies. Each of them has like a million trophies that like take up the entire thing.
You need to put a jar there for the rest of the year for every time we say Acrisure instead of or Heinz Field for Acrisure. You put $1 in, and then like at Christmas
Hey,
time, you take it down to Children's Hospital
that's right.
and we donate it. But
Put it
it's
in
like a
the
spirit
jar.
jar.
Hey, I still call it Star Lake, and still going to call it Twitter. So
Everybody calls it Star Lake, and that's worse because it's had like 15 different sponsors, and we're like, hey, who's at Star Lake? Yeah, it's
right.
it's the Post Gazette Pavilion. No, it's the Ford Amphitheater. No, it's Star Lake.
Yeah. They try to come up with every every little stupid name. It's like, nah, it's Star Lake,
Yeah.
duh.
I think you're right. I think you see the Stars play a little bit more. I am interested to see where Broderick Jones is going to play, how often he plays. Will he play that? Will he play that large amount of snaps? I mean, 49 snaps last week. Will he play that many this week? So interesting. And if Mike Tomlin, if anything, he will always give you a chance. I wouldn't be surprised to see Kendra Green back out there and be like, okay, you know what? We're going to give you another as much as we can. And that way, when it comes down to that 53-man roster, Joe, they can say, look, we gave you chances in Tampa. We gave you chances in Buffalo.
Right.
So I wouldn't surprised to see him. Or if they are that inclined to keep Kendrick Green, if they're going to pull that halfback, fullback, whatever they're going to put him in, we better see it against Buffalo and a better worker. I think.
Exactly. Now, if they do that and he fumbles, then get out of here. Get out of here.
He might not make it back to
But
Latrobe for.
but yeah. But if he pulls like a refrigerator Perry or something like that and rumbles in the end zone, he might be a hero.
Yeah, right. So, yeah, lots of good stuff. Can't wait to see the Buffalo game. Yeah, it'll be good to be back.
Sounds good. All right. We'll see what happens. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Joe. Have a good night.
You too. See you.